Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's your host Terry. I am stopped for the day. It's only 3 o'clock. I've already been stopped for about 50 minutes. So I'm in Ohio today, east of Akron. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about Akron. Akron, I don't know if you know a lot about the place, but it's a pretty cool town, and it has a lot of impressive accomplishments. And by the way, Akron's the 5th largest city in Ohio. It's got about 200,000 people. It's the 125th largest city in the United States. So I'm trying to think what the 4th largest city in Ohio would be. Because first is going to be Columbus, then Cleveland, Cincinnati. I'm not sure exactly in which order. I'm trying to think. I guess Dayton. I guess Dayton's going to be the number 4, or maybe Youngstown. I don't know. I have to look that up. Anyway, so Akron is geologically located on the far western end of the glaciated Allegheny, what's called the glaciated Allegheny Plateau. And the word Akron comes from a Greek word that means like high point or summit. And the interesting thing is Akron's not that far from, like the shoreline of Lake Erie. Like it's like 40 miles. But Akron's over 1,000 feet above sea level. And it was at the high point of the Ohio and Erie Canal that was being built when the town was kind of like discovered. And so if you know anything about Akron, or you're from this area, you also probably know that Akron is located in Summit County, Ohio, which was formed from like some other counties. And by the way, if you're involved in motorsports or pay any attention to that stuff, Summit County. Summit Racing's headquarters is right outside of Akron. I think they have another big facility down in Texas, maybe? I think I've seen it down in Texas. But anyway, Summit Racing's here. But so Akron, Akron's been a city with a lot of innovation and, just like pretty cool stuff. And of course, it's the rubber capital of the world. And, Goodyear has a big presence here. And I knew that Firestone was here too. But actually, the first rubber company here was Goodrich, B.F. Goodrich. And that was in 1869. Goodyear didn't come along until 1898. Then the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company in 1900. And then General Tire came here in 1915. So those were like the big 4 rubber companies. And between 1910 and 1920, Akron basically doubled in size. It had like a 200% growth rate over that time. And people just poured in here, worked in the rubber industry, and stuff like that. Now, there's still a lot of people that work in the rubber and tire industry. And of course, rubber, is used in all sorts of things. Man, this is a bizarre, like, sun splash on me. Anyway, so there's not as many rubber workers as there used to be, but now this area is like called, I think the nickname is Polymer Valley, right? Because plastics, polymers, a lot of stuff goes on in this area. So it's still an innovative area and a kind of a big deal. But Akron's also the home to 2 of the biggest players in the NBA. Of course, LeBron James. LeBron James is from Akron. And as you know, LeBron didn't go to college. He came straight out of middle school into the NBA. He's been, it's been 40 years because LeBron came out when he was 12 years old. That's how good he was. and he's 52 now. So he's been in, I think this is his 40th season in the NBA. And another great player, guy who I think is really cool, is Steph Curry's from Akron. And so those two guys, a few MVPs. Another noteworthy athletes from here. There are several, but another guy you might know, Thurman Munson, was from Akron. And if you don't know who Thurman Munson was, he was a catcher for the New York Yankees, and he was killed in a plane crash here in Ohio, in a plane that he was piloting. And I do remember when that happened. I was a kid. It was probably, I want to say around 77, 78. And Munson, and if anybody is really into baseball history, you may know this better than I do, but I believe Munson was the captain of the Yankees, and that there was never another captain appointed until Derek Jeter came along. But if somebody knows Yankee history more than I do, let me know. Famous football coach Ara Parsegan is also from Akron. There were some interesting experiments, things done here. There's a lot of famous scientists from here, Nobel Prize winners. But one of the things they did this health project, testing iodized salt as a preventative measure for goiters. And it was called like the Akron experiment. And they did it with school-age girls. They tested iodized salt, and I think that's a thing, you know. Anyway, so that's a little bit about Akron, but there's also a lot of famous like musical performers, acts from here. The Black Keys are from here. Devo, Whip It. The Waitresses are from here. Also, one of my favorite female performers ever, Chrissy Hind, is from here, The Pretenders. And up until recently, I think she still has a place. I mean, she lives in England, but I think she still has a place here in Akron. And she had a restaurant here. I don't know if the restaurant's still open, but another famous singer that's from here is Jenny Lane, who you might not know the name, but you'd probably recognize his face. He was the lead singer of the hair band Warrant back in the 80s. He's passed away. And then, you know, I don't like new country music at all, really. But back in the day, I used to listen to a lot of country. Hank Jr., Waylon, and, you know, even up until the time of Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson first, you know, were out. But one of my favorites, David Allan Coe, the outlaw guy, David Allan Coe is from here. So, you know, I guess country music's everywhere, even in Akron, Ohio. But yeah, so... And by the way, I've seen David Allan Coe in concert too. I like his music. I liked his stuff. He was some great stuff. Some famous actors, actresses. Melina Kanakarides is from here. She is, you'd know her face. I think one TV series she was in was called Providence, where she played a woman veterinarian who moved back home from like the West Coast back to Providence, Rhode Island, and practiced, I think, with her dad, who was played by what's the guy that played BJ Honeycutt? Mike Farrell, who, by the way, was in the Marines. And then another guy that if you're my age, or you watch a lot of reruns on like TV Land, you might not know this guy's name, but you would definitely recognize him. A guy named William Boyett. William Boyett played the sergeant in Adam 12. He was in a gazillion different TV shows, been in some movies. Yeah, so he had a lot of roles. I mean, if you Googled William Boyett and saw his picture, he was in like everything. He's just one of those character actors that always was working, but was never had his name on the marquee. So so that's a quick review of, well, maybe not so quick, of Akron. So I wanted to answer a couple of questions that people had, and hopefully I can do this briefly. So somebody asked me about the difference between running Bud wheels and singles and super singles. So Bud wheels are just, the 2 tires, but that's what they're called, Bud wheels, on a tractor as the drives, and then also on the trailer. So here's my take on the difference. I don't see any difference, okay? And here's the only times that I really have paid close attention is, one time I was driving on this state highway in West Virginia, which is like saying just a farm road, basically. It was very narrow, windy, no shoulder, just kind of a drop-off edge. And that was one of those roads where having Bud wheels came in handy, because many times I would go around a curve and my outside tires on the tandems would be off the pavement. They'd just be hanging over the edge. So that was a time when I was glad I didn't have super singles. Although super singles, of course, give you a narrower wheelbase. Now, the other thing I will say about a narrow wheelbase is in wind, when you get a lot of wind off your beam, which we would say in the Navy, so coming from the side, right, where it's hitting all your sail area, super singles are a little more sketchy. But here's the important thing to understand. There are charts that show when, wind speeds and cargo weight, and when it's you're green, and I'll try to find this chart and put it in here if I can. It might be at the end of this, but I do have a chart. And here's what I would say about that. If you're unloaded, or you got 5,000 pounds in the back and you got Bud wheels and you're going across Wyoming in this time of year, it's probably not going to matter that much. I mean, you're going to be susceptible to getting blown over. And I say Wyoming, it's true in other places. So, it really depends more on the weight, not the tires you got. I mean, super singles are an advantage for reasons of basically fuel economy. Super singles, especially if they're mounted on aluminum wheels, weigh a lot less than a set of Bud wheels with tires. It's less rolling resistance. So you have less weight, less rolling resistance, saves you on fuel. It's just that simple. And as far as I know, the payload ability is the same with super singles. Now, there are people that say, "Oh, well, if you got a set of Bud wheels and you blow a tire, you could just, limp to a truck stop." Well, that may or may not be true. It'll depend largely on, a number of factors, including the weight in the trailer or, stuff like that. But here's the bottom line. I don't care what kind of tires you got on a vehicle. If you blow one on the side of the road, you're not DOT compliant to continue down the road. It's just that simple, right? I don't care if you can make it. I've seen guys limping to truck stops, blah, 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 blah. That's illegal. And, maybe that person couldn't afford to have somebody come out and do a road call. I don't know what the ticket is on it. I don't know how many CSA points it is, but it's not legal. So that's, so every time I've ever blown a tire whether I've blown a tire on, let's see, I've blown tires on my drives once, and that was with Bud wheels. I've blown tires on trailers with both Bud wheels and super singles. And every time I pulled over and got somebody to come help and change the tire. So that's just, that's a short thing on the differences. I'm going to pull this visor over here because the sun is getting a little crazy. Okay, and then the other question that somebody asked me was, how did I transition from driving my Sprinter and hauling stuff to just get my CDL? And long story short, I was driving my Sprinter, and my wife said to me, hey, because, I was piling up miles on my own vehicle, all the costs were on me. Now I'm trying to fix this reflection. All the costs were on me, etc. So she's, it was her. She basically said, hey, if you're going to do this driving thing, why don't you just get a CDL? And so that's when I decided to go to work, and I applied at Estes to be a driver. Now, if you've watched other videos, you know what happened there. They just didn't keep their word. However, I had a permit that I had, the general test, air brakes, triples, doubles, and hazmat. And those were all the requirements that Estes had. So I have this permit, and I'm like, this is not a place I'm going to stick around because they're just not keeping their word. They didn't send me to school. So at that point, I just said, hey, I said to my wife, hey, I just need to move on. And so that's when I applied to Knight. Maybe I got all that stuff done. I mean, I applied to a few other companies, but Knight had the best program, in my opinion, because they paid you while you were training. There were a lot of things that went into it, but I think it was like 10 days after I applied, I was in Phoenix. Like, I applied, I got approved, I finished work at Estes on a Sunday night, told them that was my last day, and then the next week I drove out to Phoenix because that's where their school was at the time. Even though I was going to work out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. But I drove out to Phoenix in my Sprinter and started school on Monday. And I finished in about 2.5 weeks because I started on a Monday. And so the Thursday of the third week is when I did my CDL test. And I lived in my van at the terminal in Phoenix because I didn't want to incur costs for like the hotel room, because they paid you every week, but then you had to pay your own expenses and stuff. So I lived at the terminal. I worked out there. I showered there. I ate a lot of meals there. I just hung out when I wasn't in class, and it worked out fine because actually on the weekends I would still haul stuff in my Sprinter around like, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah. I just run these trips. Like I'd run a load up to like the Denver area and get a load coming back or whatever. So that was just, the state trooper just came flying in here. So anyway, yeah, that's how I got my CDL, and that's where I started, and I guess the rest is history, as they say. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm dropping this load tomorrow in PA. I think I got a live unload, so there's not much I can do about that. And then I'll figure out what to do with the trailer while I go home. And so that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate everybody. We did get over 660 subscribers now, so we're just heading uphill here. So that's all good. Anyway, I will I will talk to you soon. Be careful out there. It's really pretty cold here in Ohio, and I noticed they pre-treated the roads, so not sure. I got to check the forecast. It's nice and sunny, as you can see, but they must be expecting something. Oh, and by the way, somebody, I can't remember. I mean, I could find out, but somebody always says they hate my sunglasses, my Wayfarer style. So I did put my older sunglasses on. I hope these are acceptable. And if they're not, I don't know what to say. I only got 2 pair of sunglasses. So anyway, so take care. I will talk to you later. Bye.